Reverend Moses stood tall, his charismatic smile deceiving the congregation of the Healing Church. Behind closed doors, he harbored dark secrets. Reverend Moses possessed supernatural abilities inherited from his occult practicing ancestors. He could manipulate minds, conjure illusions, and heal with a touch. Initially, Reverend Moses used his powers for good, helping those in need, but as time passed, his desire for control and dominance consumed him. Reverend Moses wove a complex web of deceit, using his powers to deceive people with evil powers and miracles. Reverend Moses possessed the following supernatural abilities. He could manipulate people's thoughts, making them obedient and loyal only to him. Reverend Moses could conjure elaborate illusions, making the impossible seem real. He could heal physical ailments, but at a terrible cost. The person's soul would become bound to him. Reverend Moses could read minds, anticipating criticism and silence dissenters. He could manipulate fire and water and air to create awe-inspiring miracles. Reverend Moses used his powers to perform false miracles, deceiving his congregations. He would heal people with fake illness or injuries, convincing others of his divine authorities. Reverend Moses would reveal personal secrets, making people believe he had direct access to God. He would stage fake exorcisms, convincing people of his power over evil spirits. Reverend Moses would conjure objects out of thin air, making people believe he could provide for their needs. Reverend Moses' powers originated from an ancient entity known as the Devourer. This malevolent being fed on human souls, granting Reverend Moses dark abilities in exchange for loyalty. Reverend Moses' powers came at a terrible cost. Those he healed became bound to him, losing their free will. His miracles drained the life force of those around him. Reverend Moses' powers corrupted his own soul, fueling his ambitions and greed. Reverend Moses maintained control through he instilled fear of divine retribution for disobedience. Reverend Moses made people feel guilty for questioning his authorities. He isolated critics, making them feel alone and vulnerable. Elijah, the mysterious prophet, saw through Reverend Moses' deception. He knew the pastor's power were not from God, but from dark forces. The miracles you perform are not of the divine, Elijah declared. They are the works of darkness, deceiving the faithful. Reverend Moses' response was swift and ruthless. He silenced Elijah, but the prophet's words sparked a chain reaction, ultimately leading to the pastor's downfall. Manipulate church members, making them obedient and loyal only to him. Conceal his embezzlement of church funds, fueling his lavish lifestyle. Silence criticism either through mental manipulation or mysterious accidents. His influence spread beyond the church. Local politicians and the business leaders fell under his spell, furthering his agenda. Elijah, a mysterious prophet, began attending awkward church, sensing Reverend Moses' malevolent energy. Elijah confronted him. You have corrupted the house of God, Elijah declared. Your powers will be your downfall. Reverend Moses coughed, but Elijah's words struck a child. He knew his actions would eventually unravel. Emily, a young church member, started noticing inconsistency in Reverend Moses' teaching. He discovered hidden symbols etched into the church walls, hinting at dark rituals. As Emily investigated, Reverend Moses' powers began to falter his control over the congregation weekend. Emily, Elijah, and a small group of rebels confronted Reverend Moses. The pastor unleashed his full fury, summoning dark forces. Elijah countered with ancient knowledge, weakening Reverend Moses' powers. Emily, now aware of her own latent abilities, joined the battle. Together, they shattered Reverend Moses' illusion, freeing the congregation from his mind control. Reverend Moses' empire crumbled. The church members, now awakened, demanded justice. The law closed in, and Reverend Moses faced trials for his crimes. As he stood in his dimly light cell, Reverend Moses realized his thirst for power had destroyed everything. The devourer, an otherworldly entity, had manipulated Reverend Moses' ancestors, slowly corrupting their bloodline. Reverend Moses' powers grew stronger with each generation, but at a terrible cost. His family's souls were born to the devourer. As Reverend Moses' ambitions grew, so did his debt to the devourer. The entity demanded more souls, and Reverend Moses complied, using his powers to ensnare the faithful. However, Elijah's words had planted a seed of doubt in Reverend Moses' mind. He began questioning the true nature of his powers and the cause of his allegiance. The congregation, now aware of Reverend Moses' deception, confronted him. The pastor, realizing his reign was ending, summoned the devourer. The entity manifested, its presence shaking the earth. Reverend Moses, thinking he could control it, was consumed by the devourer's dark energy. Reverend Moses' soul was dragged to the depths of the devourer's realm, forever trapped in torment. His body, now hollow shell, crumbled to dust. The congregation, freed from Reverend Moses' control, began rebuilding their community to Elijah. The prophet guided them, no sharing ancient knowledge to protect against future deception. He The exploration of the aftermath of Reverend Moses' downfall. The congregation was stunned, grappling with the revelation of Reverend Moses' true nature. Members struggled to process their feelings from anger and betrayal to grief and guilty. With Reverend Moses gone, the church's hierarchy was left without a clear leader. Police authorities launched a probe into Reverend Moses' crimes, uncovering evidence of embezzlement, manipulation, and abuse. The denominational leadership conducted an internal investigation revealing systematic failures and complicity. The congregations confronted the harm caused by Reverend Moses' actions, working to hold accountable those who enabled or ignored his behavior, and started looking for how to heal. Therapy sections and support groups help members process their trauma. Local organizations and churches offered assistance, fostering healing and rebuilding. A temporary council form established to guide the church, prioritizing transparency and accountability. Emily, who had initially exposed Reverend Moses' deceit, continued to advocate for victims and pushed for reform. Elijah's reflections, the prophet grappled with the weight of his knowledge, seeking redemption for not acting sooner. Congregation members' stories, individuals shared their experience, finding closure and healing through shared testimonies. The denominational implemented policies to prevent similar abuses, emphasizing accountability and safeguarding. The congregation slowly rebuilt, focusing on authentic faith and compassion. Reverend Moses' legacy, his name became a cautionary tale, reminding leaders of the dangers of unchecked power and manipulations. The entity's ultimate fate remained unclear. The entity's ultimate fate remained unclear, leaving some to wonder if he still lurked in the shadows. The full extent of Reverend Moses' motivations and the depth of his corruption mind remained unknown. The aftermath of Reverend Moses' downfall served as a stark reminder, even in the darkest corner of human nature, there is always hope for redemption, healing, and renewal. Emily's experience with Reverend Moses had a profound impact on her. She became determined to help others who had suffered similar abuse. Emily started a support group for survivors of spirit, manipulation, and abuse. The group, named Freedom's Voice, provided a safe space for sharing stories and finding healing. Freedom's Voice gained momentum, attracting attention from local media and advocacy organizations. Emily became a sought-after speaker, sharing her expertise on recognizing and combating spiritual abuse. She collaborated with experts in psychology, theology, and law enforcement to develop training programs for churches and community organizations. Emily's advocacy led to establishment of a national hotline for spiritual abuse victims, development of educational resources for churches and schools, passage of legislation strengthening laws against spiritual manipulation, Through her work, Emily found closure and healing from her own trauma, discovered her passion for advocacy and leadership, formed meaningful connections with fellow survivors and allies. Emily had some challenges as her profile rose. She faced backlash from some religious communities, resistance to change, criticism from those who felt her methods were too confrontational, self doubt and burnout, balancing her own needs with the demands of advocacy. Emily remained committed to her cause, drawing strength from survival testimonials and success stories, collaborations with no like minded organizations. Her faith rekindled through her experience. Reverend Moses' legacy served as a cautionary tale. Beware the false prophet who wield power through darkness and deceit. For in the end,